Hello, everybody. It's Laura Ellen Christian with AGE-u-cate Training Institute. We are so excited to be with you today. I see all of our participants rolling in, so we'd like to give a few minutes or at least a minute to let everyone get settled and get connected. But again, AGE-u-cate Training Institute is excited. This is our first webinar launching back into 2025. And we're doing this in a little bit of a unique way this year. We're connecting this webinar to a fantastic documentary that all of you have been given the opportunity to view. So we're so thrilled to have Bonnie Wattles with Hilarity for Charity on to really help us talk about this webinar and engage in some really great conversation. So I see everyone coming in. I think we'll get started. We want to honor everyone's time. So again, I'm Laura Ellen with AGE-u-cate Training Institute. Welcome. This is the first webinar of 2025 for AGE-u-cate. We'll have 3 or 4 more webinars coming throughout the year, and we'll be sure to share those with you. But I'm honored to be joined by Bonnie Wattles and Pam Brandon. Pam is the owner and founder of AGE-u-cate, and Bonnie is our guest today. And she heads the team and the initiatives at Hilarity for Charity. So Bonnie, welcome. I want you first to introduce yourself, share a little bit about Hilarity for Charity, and then we'll go from there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. Really, this is such an honor. And just, again, thank you for sharing this film with your audience. So as you said, I'm with Hilarity for Charity. I've been here since 2018, going on 7 years, which is remarkable and unbelievable all at the same time. And Hilarity for Charity is a national nonprofit, as you know, founded by Lauren and Seth Rogen, to support family caregivers who are impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia, empower the next generation of advocates and experts, and really change the trajectory of the disease through brain health education. And so we do that in so many ways. Our caregiver support programs range from respite care to support groups, to caregiver wellness programming. And our brain health education work activates young people across the country, and we can go into more of this later, but we have digital coursework, evidence-based digital coursework about brain health. We have youth movement chapters all across the country, have over 1,000 students in 23 states. And we have a peer leadership program also for young people. So as Lauren says, we're very invested in caring for people right now who need the help, and also invested in changing the disease in the future through brain health education.
Fantastic. So we'll put some links in the chat as we go along. So I have there directly to the Hilarity for Charity website that you can link over to learn more. And like Bonnie said, we'll share more about how they're showing up in this space and supporting. But I want to start. So we released the viewing, the virtual screening of the impactful, powerful documentary, Taking Care, that features the journey of Lauren and Seth and Lauren's family as support partners for Lauren's mother, Adele. So hopefully everyone that's coming in today has had a chance to view that documentary. If you haven't, we'll share the link where you can still view that documentary. So don't worry, you haven't missed your chance. You can view it after this webinar. But we have been sourcing feedback from our network who have been able to watch the webinar. And I wanted to share this feedback because I think it pops over to the first question I want to ask you, Bonnie, that people might be wondering about. So this feedback from Amy, and she's with Beyond Faith Hospice. It says, I enjoyed seeing Seth in a different light, seeing how much he cares for the cause. We are all usually entertained by actors and comedians and don't realize they are humans as well and deal with a lot of the same stuff that we do. So maybe like the elephant in the room, Bonnie, to get everybody warmed up is, we're wondering, what is it like? What is it like to work with Seth and Lauren, knowing that they have this celebrity status, but also have this incredible passion? So anything you want to share what it's like to work with them?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I get asked that quite often. And I mean, honestly, it's an honor to work with them. There are a lot of celebrity founded charities. And what I can say about Hilarity for Charity and Seth and Lauren is that they really are so personally invested in the mission and in the future growth of the organization. And obviously this came out of such a personal place, and it was, something that they wanted to do to sort of get control over this uncontrollable event that was happening in their lives. And so it's really my honor to take their vision and make it a reality and grow the organization to, reach people all across the country with care and support. And so what I love about that comment is really, it's so true. You don't often get to see the more serious side of Seth or the family side of Seth and Lauren, and they have just a lovely, lovely relationship. And he is genuinely invested in what we do. We work with Lauren, weekly, if not daily, on certain projects. And Seth obviously is very involved in our events. So again, they really, walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it does highlight, that, this disease, as any other disease, doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't care if you're famous. It doesn't care if you don't have the means to care for that diagnosis. It doesn't care. So it really affects all of us. And I'll use that to really segue in to let Pam share a little bit about the history of AGE-u-cate and how it was formed. Because it's through her personal experience as well, as many of us have those, and many of these passion projects that really take off and snowball and make huge waves come about. It's the same story for Pam. So welcome, Pam.
Thanks, Laura Ellen and Bonnie. It's so great to be here with you and to be collaborating with Hilarity for Charity on this. I can say that when I first watched the film, even though it has been over 25 years since I walked that journey as a caregiver, so much of what I was watching there just came back, flooding back the emotions of the uncertainty. And, nobody gets a guidebook with this. I mean, you just are thrown into the situation. And how Lauren had talked about, they kind of hid it from other people. We were doing the same thing. Changes family dynamics, the worry of what tomorrow is going to bring, constantly feeling like you're on edge. So many similarities. And then I watched it again, and I encourage everybody to watch it more than one time, because other things will surface. If you're a family caregiver or a professional, it'll surface as to the complexity of dementia and how many people it affects, the lives it affects. So really, it was because of that walk, excuse me, that I started AGE-u-cate. I could see the huge need over 10 years ago for more awareness of dementia, for people to really understand it at a much deeper level, at an emotional level, that we all are going to be touched by dementia in our lifetime. And we can see that is growing every day. And so more than ever, we are in the midst of, this dementia crisis, really. And never before have we seen the need for community education, to walk with families, to train professionals. And that was really the mission that I had from day one with Dementia Live, was get a program out there that virtually everybody needs to experience dementia and build that empathy and understanding and compassion. So it couldn't have been a better timing that here we are with Hilarity for Charity, with Taking Care coming out and our 10-year anniversary. So it was a great time for us to be able to share this story from Lauren and Seth.
Thank you, Pam. Well, you mentioned watching the documentary a second time, and so I'm gonna lead with another feedback that we received from someone that watched the webinar that says just that, and I think it really speaks to kind of, Bonnie, you sharing, what inspired Hilarity for Charity to create Taking Care, and what did you hope that would convey? But Danny from Larimore County Department of Human Services said, "I love the film." That's what everybody leads with. "I thought it was very well done, and the message was clear. Take care of our own bodies while we can still take preventative measures. I encouraged all of my coworkers to watch the film as well. I even made my husband watch it with me a second time." And so I love that, Danny. But I'll use that to lead in, Bonnie. What really was that inspiration? What did you all hope that this message would convey for the film?
Yeah, I love that comment. And I'll just say, Lauren will be so happy to read that comment, because she very much feels that there is so much we can be doing now. We know so much more about this disease. 45% of cases of dementia may be preventable through lifestyle interventions. And that is exactly part of what she wanted to communicate with this film. Is to, know that we can be in control of our own brain health, which is new. I mean, it's certainly, an emerging theme in this space. And I think, when Lauren's mom, she was diagnosed when Lauren and Seth were in their early 20s, and obviously the diagnosis was very upsetting, and it was the most terrible thing that could happen to a young woman who, had just met the man of her dreams and was falling in love. And it was a very sad time. And they realized very quickly that, the toll that a disease like this can take on the family, it's very expensive. It's very sad. It's incredibly challenging. And I think, they wanted to, Lauren immediately started filming at a certain point because she is a storyteller, and it's just innate in who she is to be able to document. And I think because it was so terrible and upsetting, she wanted people to see what this disease really was. She wanted to take it out of the shadows, something that carried so much stigma, and get people talking about it, because she felt that if people are talking about it, action will be taken. And I think, at that time, and arguably now as well, people think of Alzheimer's as an old person's disease, and they very much want to reframe it as a disease that is a public health crisis and that needs national attention and action from people of all ages. And so that is a theme that has driven them through, the creation of this organization and the creation of the film.
Are you going to say?
Yeah,
No.
I'll add to that,
Yeah.
Bonnie, sorry, or Ellen. I was just going to add to that I think the public awareness is higher than it's ever been. It is just, should be at the top of any stakeholders list of how do we get this out there about what is dementia, how, prepare people for the time that they will most likely be encountering this with their loved ones. And that means school-age children, as young as school-age children, which we know are also being impacted. I mean, here Lauren was at 23. It is definitely the time, I guess, with so many initiatives being kicked off. Couldn't be a better message at the time that it is truly becoming, as you said, a public health crisis, or already is.
Already is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what was so beautiful about the film is the merging in of the emotional toll, the physical toll, but also how, the beauty that can come from situations that are hard and challenging. And one of our viewers, Julia, said just that she really appreciated how the film highlighted both sides of caregiving, which is often seen. So she said, you all shared both the burden and the fulfillment that accompanies caregiving. And I loved this statement. I think it sums up the film. It says it's a film that educates, advocates, and entertains at the same time. And that's such a great phrase for I think how everyone felt, and definitely the feedback that we got from the film. But the question connected to that, Bonnie, is given the emotional weight of the film, what were the moments of success or challenges that you all had in striking that balance between the hardships that come up and the moments of hope, weaving in the humor, which is so evident in leveraging that for Hilarity for Charity and for what you all are doing. So how did all that bubble up and take shape for the film?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the film was in the works for a very long time. Even when I started at Hilarity for Charity in 2018, so much of the footage was already shot and Lauren had been putting the film together. I think, the early on challenges were creatively just, it is such a tough topic. Right. And so how much of the reality she really wanted to show people what it is like, because what had been portrayed up until that point in film and books was really perhaps a more romanticized version of what living with Alzheimer's is. And so there was a lot of footage, some of which is in the final cut, but it is very challenging. And so I think bringing on James Keach and PCH Films with a fresh perspective, bringing them on a few years ago, really helped craft the story into what is in part love story, in part a beautiful story of a family, as well as showing what Lauren's original intent was, is how challenging, the disease is on the person and on the family as well. And I think because you saw her brother in it, Dan Miller, who is our board chair, who's not in the film industry, but, I think the family really thought and very intentionally and carefully about how to put the story out in the world.
The mission that you have with Hilarity for Charity, another thought as I was watching this again was how great it is that you're merging a very serious topic with the humor of that Seth brings into it, because so many times I would say, well, we have to laugh about this or we'd cry. I mean, we have a choice, right? In our caregiving journey, and as rough it is as it is, sometimes I would say, excuse me, we just have to laugh through this, because the other side of it is just, falling apart and crying, and we were doing enough of that. And so I love that he's taking this and using the comedians and merging these two with a very serious topic that is bringing the message to light.
And I think I loved Seth sharing, in the dating journey with Lauren when she was, first coming to the realization, that this was something that her mother was going to battle and her family was going to be engaged in. He shares about his background of his own family and coming from a line of social workers, and how he was there for Lauren to really encourage her. I'm your support, but this requires a different level of support that people need, and really sharing of, it's okay. I think, there's a lot of stigma that comes along with a diagnosis like dementia, and also stigma for the family of, having a loved one living with dementia and not wanting to get help. So I really appreciated that aspect of the film of, in that very personal family way, encouraging someone to go seek professional help. You need therapy, and that's okay. That's what if we didn't need it, it wouldn't be there, right? Like that's what it's there. And then there's the larger, message and mission of bringing awareness to the younger generation, so that we're not so knocked off of our feet when this might come, that we're aware that this could happen to our parents, and like Seth said, more quickly happen to us, if we don't do anything about it. So it's just a really, yeah, a beautiful marriage of those messages. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I love that part of the film also, especially now because young people really are destigmatizing mental health. And it's really just a movement to normalize the conversation around that. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
So I'll move on to I know a section we wanted to talk about is collaboration. So AGE-u-cate, we're a training institute. A lot of our program partners are aging service providers. So they're professional caregivers. They're also personal family caregivers, right, of how our worlds merge together. But we as AGE-u-cate really encourage collaboration. We want to collaborate out there in the world. We want to be that bridge for our program partners to collaborate with each other. So Bonnie, can you talk a little bit about the collaboration that happened during the film and why that was important to you all?
Sure. I wholeheartedly believe in collaboration, and I think collaboration in the Alzheimer's space is going to lead to a world without Alzheimer's versus competition. So my colleagues over at Bright Focus Foundation have worked on other films in the Alzheimer's space, one of which you may know about, a Turning Point. It was the journey of solanezumab, which a drug that didn't make it to market. But I knew that they had worked on it. And so my partner there, Nancy Lynn, we had been sort of talking about the documentary for a long time. And she brought in James Keach of PCH Film, who was the director on The Turning Point and other remarkable films, including a Linda Ronstadt film, which you can find on Netflix. And without those players, collaborating, we wouldn't have gotten the film to where it is. I mean, James's overlay of the story and crafting a narrative that allowed us to really get to know Adele through her whole life, really, I think, beautifully hooks the viewer in and makes you fall in love with her and, really feel the story of the family. And Bright Focus has helped us create an impact campaign. And so, which is in part what you're doing here, but we have an effort to have screenings across the country and across the globe for people are able to take this film and screen it locally. We have about 600 screenings in the pipeline. 200 and about 300 have either happened or have been confirmed. And so these are high schools, colleges, universities, healthcare institutions, corporations, senior living, and they are all creating their own screenings around this film and hosting conversations just like we're doing right now. And without Bright Focus, we would not have been able to do the impact campaign. We're a relatively young and small organization, and so we needed partners to make all of this a reality. And I would be remiss to say, and I know I don't think AARP is on this call at all, but AARP did provide the funding for the development of the film when we brought PCH on. So they've been a wonderful partner.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think what you said in the beginning, it's definitely true. We have to collaborate. We can't look at each other as competitors, no matter what space you're in, where you are supporting people living with dementia and their support network. Unfortunately, right now, there's so much need that, there is enough needs for services to go around for what we have right now. It would be wonderful to get to a place where we're so competitive because we're doing such a great job of preventing dementia and seeing those diagnosis rates go down. But right now, it's truly, we encourage you to shift to a collaborative mindset, whether you're the same home care agency in the same town, trying to do the same things, or something different. We definitely encourage you to think outside of the box and figure out how you can come together to really help and support folks. And so, Bonnie, I know you talked about, and we have a question in the chat about, does Hilarity for Charity do promotional events throughout the United States? You talked about how the film has been packaged and how you all are bringing it to people. Can you share more specifically organizations, people that are on the line today that want to do their own screening, that want to leverage this film in some way? What are those opportunities? Has the door closed on screenings that you can engage in, or what are they for them?
Yeah, I was looking for the link. I'll pop the link in the chat. So yes, it's not too late at all, and we anticipate screenings to go on as long as there's an appetite and desire to show the film. So anybody can sign up for a screening. It's takingcarefilm.com, takingcarefilm thing. And there is a button on there that's host a screening, and you fill out a form, and then our impact campaign producer, Rocco Films, will reach out to you and help you set up the screening. We don't charge a screening fee for educational institutions, and there's a small fee for other organizations, but they will help you. They'll certainly supply the link. We have an educational discussion guide that goes along with the film to help guide discussions like this, and it's appropriate for people of all ages. We really took into account that many schools and student groups would be showing the film. And so, yeah, we encourage screenings across the country. The film, I also should note, for people who want to watch it at home or with your family, is also available for streaming as of, I think, last week on Amazon, Google Play, Apple Plus TV, and Fuse TV.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And I know, Vivian, you're asking, can nonprofits do a screening? Absolutely. This is where collaboration comes into play, right? Of gathering folks in your local community, where you can all go in and make a screening even more impactful by pulling, all of your various resources to make it a community event that can have a big impact.
Yeah, and I'll just add, oh, sorry, Pam, I'll just add that organizations have been doing screenings in all different ways. Last week I was at a senior living where they did the screening in person. You all have done this screening where you gave people a window of time to watch the film and then come together for a discussion, or you can stream it virtually so everybody's watching it all at the same time. We've had people use it, as a small fundraiser for their nonprofit, which is fine. We've had people do large screenings at theaters in their community. So it's really whatever your personal appetite is for the screening.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I'm part of the Dementia Friendly Fort Worth initiative, which we're going to be doing a screening for that. If any of you out there in the audience are involved with your dementia friendly community, the work that is being done out there, which is amazing, please consider this. We're really excited. And when we put the word out that we were doing this, there was a lot of community support right away. So great way to build awareness.
Fantastic. Well, I'll kind of get us back on some questions around the collaboration. Anything, Bonnie, that was surprising that came out of those collaborations? Like, has anything spurred that's going to be happening next, or anything that you guys weren't expecting that came out of joining in to really collaborate to bring this to life?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everything is a surprise to me because I have never executive produced a film. So this is exciting for me professionally. And I've learned a lot along the way. I think one of the most exciting initiatives coming out of this film or promoting this film is our partnership with a very large student group called HOSA. I was not aware of it, but it's a Future Health Leaders organization. It's a global organization, and they have annually an international leadership conference. And we went for the first time last year with 13,000 students from across the globe attending, and we were able to show the film about 5 times while we were at the conference, and we did brain health leader training while we were there. And Lauren came down and spoke on on a panel, and it was really just so incredible. And I think what was so exciting to me about that was young people are really invested in solving for health crises and problems, and they are tracking into healthcare. And that was what was so enriching for me. And then, I think that was one of the first places where we showed the film publicly. It was a year ago. And, it was we realized that the impact of the film. And after the film, young people were standing up and saying, not only thank you to Lauren and Seth, but sharing their own experience and sharing things like, I didn't realize what my mother was going through when she was caring for her parent. And I have such a greater perspective on what her life was like and how challenging that was. And so story after story, we heard young people talking about why this film touched them and why it was so important. So I would say that was perhaps the most rewarding aspect of showing this film.
Yeah, I think as a caregiver, you feel like you're the only one. It is such a lonely road. And to, to be able to connect with others and know that you are not the only one going through this is very, it's impactful, but it's also empowering. So yeah, have to do more of that. We have to bring caregivers together so they can share and help each other through their journeys.
Yeah, and I'll just put a shameless plug for some of Hilarity for Charity's programming. Most of our programming is virtual, so it's accessible to anybody, anywhere. And we have, in addition to our respite care, where people can apply to have a professional caregiver in the home, we do offer virtual support groups. So you can be part, as a family caregiver, you can be part of a virtual support group that meets weekly, that's run by a credentialed facilitator, and those groups are ongoing. We match you according to sort of where you're at in the caregiving journey. If you're a spouse caring for a spouse, that's one group. We have Spanish speaking groups. We have groups focused on the LGBTQ caregiver, groups for young people. And we also have community lounges, which are a supportive, protected space for caregivers to come together and really learn about a particular topic. So I encourage people just to check out the wide range of offerings that we have. So thank you for putting the link in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, lots of links in the chat, and we always record our webinars and we send out follow-up. So we'll be sure to include these links in our follow-up email as well with the recording. So don't feel like you have to scramble and grab them all, but if you can, they are definitely in there in the chat, and we'll send them out later. I want to go back. I had shared a feedback where it said it's a film that educates, advocates, and entertains at the same time. And as we were just having this conversation, and you were sharing, Bonnie, about your connection with the younger students and how that was something delightful, right, or surprising that came out of this collaboration, and people standing up and sharing, this film helps me understand better what my mother was experiencing. We get those similar comments for our program partners that are launching Dementia Live. And it really, for me, highlights the importance of how we look at education and awareness and advocacy. And I really, really value and appreciate how creative Hilarity for Charity has been in getting education out there. I think we have a huge opportunity as a nation to think more creatively around, what does education mean? What does training mean? And sometimes we're still stuck in the box of sit down in a chair, look at a PowerPoint, a talking head, some of those things, which sometimes are necessary, right, to get important information out. So I'm not saying that those types of education and training aren't important, but what's important is that we have variety and that we give people opportunities to engage in ways that are going to connect with how they learn and how they can process. And what we do know, and the research tells us, is experiencing something has a much greater return on you processing that knowledge and being able to then and implement that and take action. And so I do appreciate this about the films, and as more documentaries are coming out, we encourage you to engage in those or invest in something a little unique, right? That maybe isn't being offered to your audience. And then I'll share, and I'm getting on a tangent here, but I do want to share. I was telling Bonnie and Pam, before this webinar, I was on the council meeting for the Dementia Action Alliance, which is another fantastic organization, just a free plug there. But look them up, especially for people living with dementia. And they provide amazing support for people living with dementia. And that's another thing that that I love that is getting more traction, is really elevating the voices of people living with dementia. And so it's beautiful how Lauren and Seth and her family elevated the voice of Adele, even though she's not with us anymore. But we still can also think and encourage people that are still with us, that are living well with dementia, and how we can elevate their voices. And the merging of those stories is going to just bring, greater impact. So I'll come back out of my rabbit hole there. But yeah, really, really great conversation. And thanks for sharing, how collaboration sparks more things. And we see that with our program partners too. We hear all of the time of, how program partners in the same areas come together to make greater impact. So again, I can't reinforce that enough. So this is kind of in the same light, but and I know this has kind of been new, but it started kind of in the fall of last year, I think, Bonnie, of releasing the documentary in ways that people could engage and have screenings, but not just for Hilarity for Charity, but have you all seen any new initiatives or programs emerge from other organizations connected to the film? We had such great feedback from people who are so inspired. So I'm just wondering, have you seen that inspiration spark anything yet? And you may never know, but if you've heard of anything.
Yeah, I do think I'll go back to the partnership that we have formed with HOSA and that we continue to evolve. They're one of the add-on programs that we're doing with them is we've sponsored their PSA competition this year. So we haven't seen any of the entries yet, but the entire PSA competition is based on how do we promote brain health education for young people. And so we are super excited to go to the conferences in Nashville this I think it's in May, and be able to hear the pitches from the students and to see how they can dream up how they would market brain health. And as we all know, because we work in the space, when you go to the doctor, you everything in your body gets checked except for your brain, right? And we are really, as as a field, hoping to move forward, cognitive testing and normalizing cognitive testing. And so right now it is included as part of the Medicare wellness visit at age 65, but we really should be getting baseline tests throughout our life. And so there are a number of ways to get a memory screening, but one of the ways is to ask your doctor for it. And if they won't give it to you, ask a different doctor for it. So, I think having, really seeing what students are doing around brain health can help inform Hilarity for Charity for our future content about how do we continue to promote brain health, destigmatize the disease, and get people aware about early diagnosis, which we all know is so critical.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We're talking about the services that Hilarity for Charity provides a little bit, and I know that was a good part of the film of sharing, how Seth and Lauren have been inspired and how the journey of forming Hilarity for Charity has grown, and in terms of what they're offering. And so, can you share more about the impact Hilarity for Charity is making? How do you feel like you were help bridging the gap for family caregivers, and how can other people get involved? We shared a little bit, but expand on that some.
Sure. One, I want to thank you for, sort of calling out our content and how we're using humor. And I really believe we have the best communications team on the planet. And in large part is driven by Seth and Lauren's vision for how they want the organization to appear to the outer world. I mean, they're creative geniuses. And so they have a very specific, feeling about how we should look, and the tone of our voice should be so accessible to people. And so our comms team has really taken that and run with it. And so I think, oh, now I've lost track of the question. Sorry. Laura Ellen, can you?
Yeah, just share a little bit more about, what impact do you think Hilarity for Charity is having most, and maybe specifically to helping caregivers bridge the gap out there? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And so I think what we hear consistently from caregivers is people are so happy they found us when they find us, and that we're a very welcoming community for caregivers, and that we like to think of ourselves as a warm place for serious business. We're definitely an established organization with impactful programs, but I think people feel that when they come to us, we're talking to them in a language that they can understand, that they feel connected to a community of other young people, even though so many of our programs, span all of the age groups. And I think people, can get involved with us in a number of ways. Certainly, if you're a caregiver and you need support, we encourage you to apply for a respite care grant if that is something that you think would be helpful. To date, the organization has awarded close to 500,000 hours of care. So you can apply at any time. Those applications are rolling. We review them monthly. And if you are awarded a grant, you get about 100 hours of care to be used, on your schedule, and we help arrange with the caregiving organization. And again, we have our support groups and community lounges. The community lounges are a wonderful way just to sort of dip in and get some support when you can. And we also have caregiver navigation services, which is a one-to-one program where you would receive specific, specialized, customized resources for your particular situation and your particular geography. And we also have financial education as well. So we've really broadened the scope of our offerings for caregivers to really in response to what we're hearing caregivers need. And then in terms of our youth programming, really, I want to say our brain health education programming, anybody can go on to HFC Universe. You'll see it on our website, the link to brain health. That is digital coursework that is evidence-based. It came out of a research study that we did in 2018 with New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell, where we tested whether students learn better from a doctor or a celebrity. I know it sounds a little out there, but it is a study that was published in the Neurology, the Journal of Neurology, and it was really the first time that education had been considered in terms of Alzheimer's and prevention. And so most students learn better from a celebrity, turns out. And so we've created courses that are taught by our celebrity faculty, and really educate you about all of the different aspects of brain health, as well as what is Alzheimer's, what are the different risk factors, modifiable, non-modifiable. And anybody can go through those courses. You don't have to be a high school student or a college student. You can be a student of life. And we even have 19 master classes on there led by Dr. Richard Isaacson, if you would like to learn from an actual scientist and not a celebrity. So those are other ways that you can get involved. And if you have a young person who is in college and or high school and wants to start a youth movement chapter, please send them our way. They could start their own youth movement against Alzheimer's chapter at their campus.
Those are also just a fabulous collection of ways people can get involved with you and kind of hook on, right, to the impact that you're making, right, encouraging youth to create their own chapter, but then just really, hands-on accessible resources for people. and again, the way that they want to engage and learn. So if you want to join a support group, that's great. If you just want to learn on your own, then you've got the resources there to do that. And they aren't gated, and they're offered to folks. And then of course, the donation aspect, so that you all can keep offering these things and these services that are so accessible to people. So yeah, we're incredibly grateful for organizations like Hilarity for Charity that are out there, and thank you for the impact you're making. So we'll definitely be sure to put resources out for our program partners. We have our own internal portal where our program partners can go and access a lot of resources that we provide. And that's how we love to collaborate too, is to linking over quick access to organizations like yours that are making such a great impact. And like you, Bonnie, I had a thought and that I was going to share next, and now I can't pull it up in my mind. But Pam, any final words that you want to share, and maybe it'll pop up and I can end us out with that.
Yeah, I will add, and Laura Ellen, I'll let you maybe take it from here, but the scholarship, the dementia-friendly scholarship that we opened up, which, we're very excited about. So only because my voice is so crackly, I'm going to let you talk about that.
Sure. Yes. So fantastic. So just like Hilarity for Charity, AGE-u-cate is really committed. Obviously, we have programs that you can invest in, but we really want to also make sure that we're offering resources that make impact in the community, regardless, right, of your ability to invest in those. So we are offering, in celebration of our 10 years of Dementia Live, a scholarship program for the first time to receive the Dementia Live program, a year subscription of that program for dementia-friendly initiatives. So if you are engaged in a dementia-friendly initiative in your local community, you can apply for that. We'll be giving away, awarding 10 of those, and the applications are due on the 28th. So I'll scramble and try to find that link, and I can put it in the chat for you all, but of course, we'll include it in the email that we send. And, we're also grateful to have the opportunity to donate to Hilarity for Charity as well. So we're excited to support the equivalent of a respite scholarship that Hilarity for Charity is able to award people. You saw the impact of those in the film. That was another great thing that I loved about the film, is really, showing and sharing those stories of real people that you're impacting. And we get those stories too from our program partners, whether it's, giving a really unique, meaningful education session that really brings some good conversation, or it's giving out an award of respite care so that that care partner can pull back, right, and get some care themselves. And Lauren's dad shares that beautifully, right, of the whole family identifying that for him. So all of those are so important. Let me pull up the Q&A here. Let's see.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I'll just jump in to say thank you so much. Thank you for donating, the equivalent of a respite grant, and it will go to great use. And thank you again for this partnership. And thank you for the plug about donating. I'm going to put the donate link in the chat.
Fantastic. I think someone's saying here, just again, thank you to you, Bonnie, and Hilarity for Charity for raising awareness. I think they're asking kind of a question: what is next for Hilarity for Charity and the continued mission to raise awareness and influence public policy? And oh gosh, my thought that I had popped in my head, but you go ahead. I'm going to write it down and you go ahead and answer that, Bonnie. If anything you haven't shared, you've already shared a lot. You're doing a lot. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, we're always excited, looking towards the future, and certainly, sticking to what we initially set out to do, which is provide more care to more caregivers. That's just a given. And to really scale our brain health education. Our dream is that this would be curriculum in schools, and everybody from the earliest of ages would learn that your brain is something you can actually take care of. We have just finished a 4-year strategic plan. We haven't published it yet, but there's some of that in there, right? Like more care for more caregivers, as well as finding ways for young people to have greater volunteer opportunities beyond starting a WIMA chapter, but, we're thinking about some sort of care corp service for young people to be able to get trained and be, care volunteers. So those are kind of some of the initiatives that we're thinking about. And of course, we look forward every year to our larger than life events, which is what you will all see on, in the press. Those are always really fun and entertaining. So one day I can be talking about this, and the next minute I could be talking about, what musical talent can we get for our big signature event. So that's really where the fun and the excitement comes in during the year.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know you all just had CareCon
Oh,
last
yeah.
Friday, which was fantastic. I was able to join in just for a little bit as I was going here and there with my kiddos at 3 o'clock my time. That's when I transitioned to mom often on Fridays, but that was a fantastic offering. I know a free engagement full of celebrities and experts and people just having real honest conversations. So that was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and all the recordings will be posted to our YouTube channel. So certainly this is our fifth annual CareCon. All the previous CareCons are up there already. I think it's going to take about a week or so to get all the recordings up there. So if you are interested, every year we have a panel on comedy and caregiving, which is where we started this conversation. So you can hear other comedians, their caregiving journey, and really illuminating that no one should feel alone in this process, because it really touches so many lives. So feel free to check out our YouTube section.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and the one thing that popped back into my head, you were talking about doing the research and younger people wanting to learn from celebrities versus doctors, and just kind of the whole shift. Really, we're having it's been a culture shift of how we learn and how we engage, who we want to learn from, and it definitely highlights the whole journey of how influencers are coming to light and really are playing a big part in our day-to-day lives. And so we had a question, and I told them, Bonnie, we'll connect you with them about, do Lauren and Steph go on the road? Do they ever show up for smaller events or things like that? And we'll connect people to you in Hilarity for Charity. I'm sure there's contact information on the website. You can reach out about opportunities. But what I would encourage you to do is think about who are the celebrities and influencers in your own local community, and think about people living with dementia and how you can help elevate their voice. It's fantastic to connect in with Seth and Lauren and other celebrities. There's so many out there who have been diagnosed with dementia, or who have shared about their journey of being a care partner. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. But I think what's so important is that we begin to create our own influencers in our own communities and really think about who are those people, and don't forget about the people living with dementia. They're really our experts. They're the people that can help us understand how to continue to support them, as well as doctors, as well as other people who have lived experience. But I would encourage you to, seek out who really you might want to, but don't forget about cultivating your own influencers in your own community.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great point. And I think, we as an industry need to do a better job of elevating the voices of those living with the disease. And there's still so much life left to live, even upon diagnosis, and so much life left to live well, especially with all of the lifestyle interventions that we have, and now even disease modifying treatments available. So, I encourage, really, let's not be afraid of a diagnosis. Let's embrace it.
That's right. Yeah. I just because we have a few more minutes, I'll share. When I was on the DAA Corporate Council, Lori Scherer, who we actually collaborated with this year to create videos for us for AGE-u-cate and our program partners. She lives with frontal temporal dementia. And she shared her diagnosis story, which was over 10 years ago, where she was told, she was only going to live for a year or two. And she's really taken charge of her journey and her care journey. And here she is, 10 years post-diagnosis, and she leads the advisory board for Dementia Action Alliance of people living with dementia. And she's just, phenomenal. So it's just so important that we come alongside people and help them live well with dementia, and understand that if you get the diagnosis, it's a diagnosis. And yes, that can be scary, but there's so many resources where you can live a beautiful life. You should be able to live a beautiful life, even no matter what your diagnosis is. So yeah. Well, thank you all so much for joining us again for our first webinar of the year. Like we shared, we'll have 3 or 4 or 5. We'll see what comes down the pike. We have several already secured webinars and conversations. We'll share those with you now that you're part of our community, if you weren't already before. And Bonnie, just thank you so much for your time, for all that you are doing and the impact you're making. We really appreciate you and are so glad to form a friendship with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, and I'm looking forward to the next collaboration. So thank you for the work you're doing. It's so important. And I'm already thinking how we can plug you into what we're doing. So
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right.
And
All right.
everyone joining. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.